The deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council has threatened there's going to be no more talk of a nuclear-free Baltic because Finland and Sweden are suddenly banding together to be the backbone of a new Nordic NATO. The strange part, though, as the Lithuanian defense minister has explained, is that Russia already has nuclear weapons in the Baltic, in Kaliningrad. That's the little bit. Can we put a map up of Kaliningrad? It's an odd bit of Russia that isn't connected to Russia. To put it in Anne McElhinney terms, it's a bit like Northern Ireland there, because it's a long way from the mainland, as they probably say in Kaliningrad. Anyway, joining me now is Lt General Jonathon Riley, who is an old NATO hand from Afghanistan and elsewhere. Russia seems to regard this putative expansion of NATO as the latest provocation. How do you see it?
Hello, Mark. It's very nice to be with you again. That's one way of looking at it, isn't it? Another is, well done, Putin, for having pushed two nations with such a diverse history and relationship with Russia into the arms of your enemies, but by your behaviour. Finland has had a very complex relationship with Russia. It's been ruled by Russia. It's fought against Russia. It's been neutral, but under the Russian influence. Sweden has famously been neutral, really, since the first part of the 19th century. But both of them have guarded their independence and they've maintained their own ways. But such is the behavior of Russia that they now feel that the only way to safeguard their security is to line up with the West and to look to NATO. Well done, Putin, for engineering the thing that you said you wanted to avoid.
I can see that from their point of view. I'm wondering if there's a danger in NATO just becoming a general Western club, as opposed to a more specific and purposeful alliance of military powers. Do you worry about that?
I don't worry about it. No, NATO has been the guardian and the security of the civilized world since the end of the Second World War, and it has in recent years undertaken operations outside Western Europe, as you know, to try to safeguard and push forward civilized values. And who knows that there may be other candidates lining up for membership of NATO. What about Moldova? What about Georgia? What about Armenia? They must be feeling pretty threatened right now. They're not exactly Western European nations, but they're nations that share the general values that we have.
It would be a big thing if Armenia were to join. You know, I find this slightly odd because I've mentioned this on the show before. About 20 years ago, I found myself sitting at lunch next to Lord Carrington, and he drawled at me in that wonderful drawl of his at one point over the soup, "What is NATO for?" And I said to him, well, you know, you were Secretary General. If you don't know, why should I know? What is NATO for if Armenia is a prospective candidate?
It's for the security of the values of freedom and democracy, for security, to prevent and to prevent aggression through the medium of illegal war, which is what is being prosecuted in Ukraine at the moment. That's what it's for.
And you're confident that that principle can be extended eastward, not just to Sweden and Finland, the Baltics are already in, but it can go to Moldova and Armenia as well?
Well, if it can go to Finland and Sweden, and it's already in Turkey, don't forget, which is pretty far east.
Oh, yes.
Then in theory and in principle, it could go. It could go anywhere. Why not? The issue is, will the guarantees of under Article 5 be credible? The guarantees under Article 5, which is an attack on one is attack on all, will be credible only if NATO can project the sort of military power that is going to be needed to stop Russia. Now, military power in a confrontation is not an absolute thing. It's a relative thing. Its capabilities relative to the enemy, and we're seeing this in Ukraine. The Russians are not doing very well on the battlefield, and they're not doing very well because they're faced with the Ukrainian army that's very numerous. It's been equipped by the West. It's been trained by the US and Britain, and it's more than holding its own. So long as the other militaries in NATO do understand that, and they don't think just because the Russians are not doing very well, we can step back and not do much. So long as we all step up to the plate and we equip and arm and train our militaries to face the Russians, then we don't have anything to fear.
Well, just let me ask you a final question on that, because you raised Article 5. Nigel Farage was talking to a United States senator who said, no guy in Cleveland wants to go to war for Estonia. Do you think an Enniskillen Fusilier or whatever wants to go to war for Armenia or even Finland?
Well, nobody wants to go to war for anything at all. But how would the guy in Cleveland feel if somebody in Britain or Washington D.C. said, "Don't really feel like going to war for you"? Article 5 is a catch-all. It catches all of us, whether we like it or not. And it's not about what we think; it's about what the other side does.
Yeah, there's a lot of deterrence in the air at the moment. Thank you very much for that, Jonathan. We always appreciate your insights on these things.